identified, and he wants them brought back to the United States as heroes to raise morale for the fighting in the Pacific. So Roosevelt immediately wants these 6 soldiers in the photo identified, and he wants them brought back to the United States as heroes. Unfortunately, this is a different time period. We don't have cell phones. We don't have texting. We can't send pictures across the country in no time. We don't have Messenger. So, unfortunately, it was a month after the second flag raising before Roosevelt asked for the identities. So unfortunately, it was a month after the second flag raising, and so these 6 identities, are they going to be easy to figure out? Kids, this happened, man, just in a split second. But somebody's going to be responsible to identify these. Who do you think that's going to be? No? Who's going to know the soldiers? Not the photographer.
Their commander.
No. He wasn't up on top to see who was there. Who took the American flag up there? The bigger one. Rene Gagnon. He will be the man responsible to identify the soldiers in the photograph. Now, did I give you a handout like this right here? That look familiar? The handouts I gave you? Or did I not? Didn't I give you a bunch of handouts on this? Pictures of Iwo Jima and all that? Oh yeah. Here's one. Look at that. Brady's got that one. And then he's got that one with somebody's face circled. No, I didn't. I don't think I did give you one. That's okay. When Gagnon identified the 5 other soldiers, this is who he came up with in the picture. Marine Sergeant Henry Oliver Hanson, who would be in this position right here. Take a look. Henry Hanson in this position right here in the picture. You might want to pull your picture out. I don't know. It might help if you have your picture pulled out. He also identified the only member that was not a Marine, Navy Corpsman John Bradley, in this position. So I want you to take out your picture I gave you. And I want you to write down these names on these people and point arrows to them. So get those out. Rene Gagnon is the one that has to identify.
Are these? Where will these be?
Right behind your maps. Just keep it going. Look at there. So let's start over. On your map, make sure you know who's at the base of the flag. Henry Oliver Hanson. Who's kind of front and center right here according to Gagnon? John H. Bradley. The only non-Marine. Only non-Marine. You have your binder here? Okay, all right. At the very kind of back at the end here, he identifies that individual as Ira Hayes, who is actually an American Indian, Native American. Ira Hayes, towards the end here. Ira Hayes. Native American. Next to Ira Hayes, the next guy in was Franklin R. Sousley. Franklin R. Sousley. He's right next to Hayes. Hayes is here, Sousley is here. Okay, kind of hard to see, but the guy kind of squeezed in the middle of Bradley and Sousley, you can't see him very good in the picture, was Sergeant Michael Strank. Sergeant Michael Strank. And very difficult to see between Hanson and Bradley will be Rene Gagnon. Between Hanson can't see very good, but it's because he's actually behind Bradley. He's way behind Bradley. So that's who Gagnon identifies. Well, later, Ira Hayes is not certain about the man at the base of the flag in the photograph. He doesn't think that that's Henry Oliver Hanson. He just doesn't look right. So he asked the Marine Corps to investigate further, and it turns out that Henry Hanson was not the man at the base of the flag in the second photograph. He was actually mistaken because he was in the first photograph. That's where he was. But he wasn't in the second. It was later discovered in 1946 that the man who was actually at the base of the flag in the famous picture was Harlan H. Block. So we have our first discrepancy. Harlan H. Block. Now here's where it gets a little bit dicey for President Roosevelt. So we have him identified correctly. You've got Hayes, Sousley, Strank, Bradley, Gagnon, but it is not Henry Hanson. It turns out it is Harlan Block. Now, what does Roosevelt want? They want him brought home and to be his heroes. He didn't get this picture till how long after it was taken? A month. Unfortunately, both Block and Hanson, who really wasn't in the picture, but Block was, they were killed on the same day, 6 days after the photo was taken. So Harlan Block, who really was at the base of the flag, and Henry Hanson, who was mistakenly at the base of the flag, ironically, both these men were killed 6 days on the same day after the photograph was taken. So how many men were in the picture? 6. Only 2 of the 6 men walked off the island alive. That would be Rene Gagnon and John Bradley. They were the only 2 that walked off the island alive. Ira Hayes survived, but he had shrapnel embedded in his side and he had to be carried off in a stretcher. So 3 of the 6 survived. Okay? Gagnon, Bradley, and Hayes. Although Hayes was wounded and had to be carried off the island. Only Bradley and Gagnon left Iwo Jima in one piece, so to speak. So who was killed that was in the picture? Harlan Block, Frank Sousley, and Michael Strank. Where do you think Block and Sousley were buried? On the island of Iwo Jima. Sousley and Block were buried on the island of Iwo Jima. Where do you think Michael Strank is buried today? And you'll get a chance to visit his gravesite. Arlington National Cemetery. So the 2 boys, Block and Sousley, were killed. They buried them on the island, which tells you they were probably killed in what duration of those days? Towards the early, middle, or end? Early or middle, because they didn't have time. It tells you that Strank was probably killed when? Toward the end, when they had declared victory and could remove the body without problem. Ira Hayes and Rene Gagnon lived a fairly long life, and after their civilian deaths, where do you think they are buried? Arlington National Cemetery. You'll get an opportunity to visit them this spring. John Bradley recently passed away, just recently passed away. Not buried in Arlington. Now, let's talk about Taylor, because she wasn't far off, she just was early. Okay? Now, this famous photograph by Joseph Rosenthal was later made into a very impressive statue, and it's located in Washington, D.C., just outside the back side of Arlington. And you will get an opportunity to see that this spring. It's pretty impressive. So this famous photograph by Joseph Rosenthal was later made into an impressive statue and a memorial which is located in Washington, D.C., just outside the back of Arlington Cemetery. If you walk 150 yards from the Iwo Jima Memorial to the stone wall of Arlington and jumped over the wall, you would be in a burial site for Confederate soldiers during the war. But it's that close. Okay? Who designed this memorial statue? A fellow by the name of Horace W. Peaslee. He designed the Iwo Jima Memorial statue that sits in Washington, D.C. Horace W. Peaslee designed it. And the man who created the bronze sculpture was Felix de Weldon. Felix de Weldon. It is an incredible thing to see. And the detail is unreal, from the ripple in their shirts, to the detail of their weapons, to their faces. It's just unbelievable detail, just unreal. And so the man who designed the entire memorial statue and surrounding area was Horace W. Peaslee, and the man who actually created the bronze sculpture was Felix de Weldon. Now, getting back to Miss Nolan's initiation here, because she was right on top of it. That statue was made and formally dedicated on November 10th, 1954. November 10th of 1954. It was on the 179th birthday of the formation of what? You think? The Marine Corps. Very good. So the formal dedication of the Iwo Jima Memorial in Washington, D.C. took place on November 10th, 1954, on the 179th birthday of the of the formation of the Marine Corps. About 7,000 guests attended that ceremony, including who? Come on, let's get it. Including who? 1954. Including who? What? No. 1954. You're close, but not Roosevelt. Nope. Nope, you're right. You got everybody. You got who was the president in 1954? Famous D-Day commander. Dwight D. Eisenhower was one of the 7,000 guests as President of the United States. Okay, I got quite a treat for you, and this is probably the thing, and people ask me in this room all the time, what's the most valuable? This may be the most valuable thing I have in the room.